Hello, my name is Dr. William Carter. I'm 90 years old, and for more than 60 of those years I've been practicing medicine, most of that time spent in emergency rooms where every second counts and every decision can mean the difference between life and death. Over the decades, I've treated thousands of patients. I've watched lives hang in the balance. I've held hands of people in pain, comforted families, and fought alongside my colleagues to save those we could. But there's one thing that still breaks my heart. Something I've seen far too often, and yet most people know nothing about. I'm talking about what happens after we eat. Not hours later, but within just 30 minutes after a meal. That short window, which many people ignore, is what I call the golden danger zone, especially for older adults, because that's when I've seen seemingly healthy men and women suddenly collapse. Stroke, heart failure, breathing problems, all triggered not by illness alone, but by a simple, avoidable habit done too soon after eating. Even now, I remember their faces. A man who just enjoyed lunch with his grandchildren. A woman who had a joyful holiday dinner with her family. They were laughing, talking, alive. And then, in a blink, everything changed. When I think back on those cases, I don't just see patients. I see mothers, fathers, grandparents, people who should have had more time. And I wonder if they'd still be here today, if only they had known what I'm about to share with you. So no, this is not a lecture. This is not something I read from a textbook or a medical journal. This is personal. It's a message born out of years of watching what works, what harms, and what saves. That's why I'm here. Because if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, or you have someone you love who is, what I'm going to tell you might just change the course of your next 10 years, and possibly it could save a life. If you stay with me, I'll walk you through the 5 most dangerous post-meal habits I've seen, and I'll show you what to do instead, so you or someone you care about never becomes another name in a hospital file. Let's begin. I'd like to begin with the first habit, one that may seem completely harmless, even comforting: lying down after a meal. I know, it sounds innocent enough. You've just had lunch, maybe a hearty dinner, and your body feels heavy. Naturally, you want to stretch out on the couch, close your eyes, just for a few minutes. I've heard it so many times. "Doc, I wasn't feeling sick. I just needed to rest." But what most people don't realize is that those few minutes can be deadly. When you lie down too soon after eating, gravity is no longer helping your stomach do its job. The contents of your stomach, especially if you've eaten a rich or heavy meal, can move upward, back into the esophagus. In younger people, this may just cause heartburn, but in older adults, the consequences can be far more severe. Acid reflux can lead to aspiration, where stomach contents enter the lungs. I've seen patients come in with severe pneumonia caused by this. Some never made it out of the ICU. There was one woman I remember well, Mrs. Reynolds. She was 78, vibrant, independent, sharp as a tack. She called her daughter after a lovely Sunday lunch, then said she was going to lie down for a while. An hour later, she was found unconscious in her bedroom. The doctors found acid in her lungs. She never woke up. If she had simply sat upright for 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, she might still be with us today. The second habit I want to warn you about is hot bathing after a meal. And again, I understand the appeal. The warmth, the relaxation, it feels like a reward after a long day. But I can't tell you how many cases I've seen where a relaxing bath turned into an emergency within minutes. When you eat, your body redirects blood to the digestive system. That's a normal response, but when you then enter hot water, your blood vessels dilate even more, particularly near the skin. This sudden shift draws blood away from your vital organs, including the brain and the heart. For a young, healthy person, the body can usually adjust. For someone older, especially with high blood pressure or heart disease, it can be disastrous. I had a patient, Mr. Thomas, who always enjoyed his evening routine, dinner followed by a long soak in the tub. He'd been doing it for years, until one night his wife heard a crash. He'd collapsed in the bathroom. He survived, but he never regained full use of his right side. Stroke. Triggered by a combination of a full stomach and hot water, a small adjustment, waiting 45 minutes before his bath. could have spared him and his family years of hardship. These habits don't seem dangerous, but that's exactly why they are. Because we don't question them, we don't talk about them, but I'm here to tell you that these simple, seemingly harmless routines can change the course of your life, or take it away quietly, quick. And we're not done yet. There are still other habits I need to warn you about, and more importantly, I'll show you how to replace them with ones that strengthen your health rather than compromise it. Let's keep going. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you, even upset a few of you who take great pride in staying active. I'm referring to strenuous exercise right after eating. Now let me be clear, I am a firm believer in movement. Walking, stretching, staying mobile, these are keys to longevity. But timing, my friends, is everything. And when it comes to exercise, doing it too soon after a meal can do more harm than good. You see, after we eat, our digestive system needs a great deal of blood flow to break down food, absorb nutrients, and manage internal balance. That's the body's priority. But when you go straight from the table to lifting weights, hiking uphill, or even walking too briskly, your muscles suddenly start competing with your stomach for that same blood supply. And guess who suffers? The heart. Your heart now has to work twice as hard to deliver blood to both your digestive system and your muscles. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, and especially if you're living with any cardiovascular condition, this extra strain can push your heart past its limits. I've seen this happen more times than I care to count. I remember a man named Harold, 75 years old, lean, always fit. He believed in staying strong and active, which I admired deeply. After a full lunch one Sunday, he decided to take his usual uphill walk. He never came back. His neighbor found him collapsed on the trail, his hand still gripping the walking stick. Cardiac arrest. His wife later told me he always walked after meals, said it helped him burn the calories. I only wish someone had told him sooner that his heart, though strong, couldn't keep up with the demands of digestion and exertion at the same time. So what should you do instead? Wait. Just 30 to 45 minutes, let your food settle, let your body do its quiet work. Then go for that walk. Gentle, relaxed, not rushed. That's when movement becomes medicine, not a threat. Now, another habit many overlook, and one that feels even more benign, is drinking very hot or very cold water immediately after a meal. It's such a small detail, right? A sip here, a sip there. But in older adults, our digestive system becomes more sensitive with age. Sudden changes in temperature can interfere with the delicate balance our stomach requires to process food properly. When you drink something ice cold right after eating, your stomach muscles may tighten, your digestive enzymes may slow down. I've had patients complain of bloating, cramps, indigestion, thinking something was wrong with their food when in fact it was the glass of ice water that followed it. On the other end, very hot beverages can irritate the lining of the esophagus and stomach, especially in those with acid reflux or inflammation. There was a woman, Maria, in her early 80s. Lovely woman, always polite, always smiling. She'd sip on boiling tea right after her meals, said it helped her feel clean inside. But she came to me repeatedly with burning pain in her chest and nausea. After reviewing her habits, I asked her to try something different, switch to warm water, and wait 10 minutes after eating, just 10 minutes. Within a week, her symptoms were gone. It's not about giving things up. It's about adjusting them, making small, mindful changes. The goal isn't perfection, it's preservation. Preserving the health, energy, and independence you've worked your whole life to build. We've gone over some of the most dangerous habits after meals, but it's not just about what not to do. In the next part, I want to share with you the habits you should embrace after eating. The ones that help your body heal, digest, and thrive. Because prevention is only half the story. The other half is how we care for ourselves, day by day, meal by meal. Let's continue. There's one more habit I want to talk to you about. It's something many people don't think twice about, something they've done for years without ever connecting the dots. Stepping outside right after a meal, especially during extreme weather, cold winters or hot summer days. Now, I understand. You finish lunch and remember the mail needs checking, or perhaps the trash needs taking out. Maybe it's just a habit, a little stroll around the yard after dinner. It seems harmless. In fact, some folks even believe it's good for digestion. But for older adults, it can be a dangerous misstep, particularly when temperatures outside are intense. Let me explain why. After you eat, your body goes into digestion mode. That means blood flow is redirected inward to your stomach, your intestines, so your organs can process the food. At the same time, your nervous system enters a relaxed state. Now imagine walking from that calm, warm, inner-focused state straight into a blast of freezing winter air or sweltering heat. What happens next is what we call thermal shock. Your blood vessels, which were just supporting digestion, suddenly constrict or dilate depending on the temperature. In winter, the cold causes blood vessels to tighten rapidly, especially in the skin and limbs. This can spike blood pressure and reduce circulation to the heart and brain. In summer, intense heat dilates the vessels, lowering blood pressure suddenly. And if you're already in a digestive lull, this drop can make you feel dizzy, even faint. I recall a gentleman, Mr. Chen. He was 82, lived alone, sharp and self-sufficient. One icy morning, right after breakfast, he stepped outside to clear a bit of snow from his steps. It wasn't much, just a few minutes, no coat. He slipped. When the neighbor found him, he was conscious but couldn't speak. A stroke. He survived, thankfully, but never regained full mobility. His blood pressure had spiked so suddenly from the cold that a clot was triggered. He later told me, "Doctor, I've been doing this for years." I believe him, but sometimes it only takes once, and heat can be just as cruel. I remember a woman, Margaret, 79, who went out into the garden right after a summer lunch. The sun was blazing, but she just wanted to tend to her roses. She passed out within minutes from heat exhaustion, her body overwhelmed by the demand for cooling when it was still focused on digesting. Her core temperature had climbed dangerously high before help arrived. What I want to say is this: our bodies are not what they used to be. We may feel strong, and in many ways we still are, but the systems that once adjusted quickly, circulation, temperature regulation, digestion, they become more sensitive with age. And that means we need to treat ourselves with a little more care, a little more patience. So what should we do? Simple changes, really. Wait at least 30 minutes after a meal before going outside, especially if the weather is extreme. Use that time to sit, breathe, talk to someone, or do something gentle indoors. If you do need to go out, dress appropriately. Protect your head, your chest. Give your body the time it needs to transition safely from one state to another. All these things I'm sharing with you, avoiding strenuous movement, staying upright, choosing the right kind of drink, protecting your body from sudden environmental change, they are not about fear. They are about awareness, and they are based on what I've seen work time and again across thousands of patients and many decades of practice. But now, I want to shift gears. We've spoken at length about the dangers, about what not to do, but what about the good? What should we be doing after meals to support our hearts, our minds, and our longevity? Because I believe deeply that healing doesn't just come from avoiding harm, it comes from actively creating health. So let's talk about that next. Now that we've talked about what not to do after a meal, let me share with you what you should be doing. Simple things, gentle things, but powerful all the same. Habits that I've seen keep people healthy well into their 90s, even 100 says. Habits that don't cost a thing, but over time can give you years. The first one may sound overly simple. Sit upright. That's it. No fancy pose, no equipment, just sit up straight after you eat. I always tell my patients, digestion is gravity's friend. When you sit upright, spine gently straight, shoulders relaxed, you allow your stomach to do its job efficiently. Food settles better, stomach acid stays where it belongs, and you reduce the risk of reflux or bloating. There was a man I treated once, quiet, reserved, in his mid-70s. He had chronic indigestion, was on 3 different medications for it. Nothing seemed to work. One day, almost as an afterthought, I asked him what he did right after meals. He told me he liked to recline in his favorite chair, tilted back, television on. I asked him to try something new. Just 30 minutes of upright sitting after eating. Within a week, his symptoms began to fade. Within a month, he was off 2 of his medications. It wasn't the pills, it was posture. About 10 minutes after eating, I also recommend sipping a cup of warm water. Not hot, not cold, just warm enough to feel gentle going down. It helps stimulate digestion without shocking the stomach. Some of my older patients even add a thin slice of ginger or a pinch of cinnamon, not necessary but soothing, especially in colder months. You'd be surprised what a cup of warm water can do for an aging digestive system. It's one of those small comforts that holds quiet power. And while you're sitting, talk, share a moment. I cannot tell you how healing it is to have a calm, lighthearted conversation after a meal. It relaxes the nervous system, eases the body into digestion, and brings a kind of warmth no medication can provide. I've had patients tell me that ever since they started setting aside 10 or 15 minutes to talk with their spouse or a friend after dinner, they sleep better. They feel less tension. The body listens when the mind is at ease. Then, once about 30 minutes have passed, it's time for my favorite prescription of all, a walk. Not a brisk one, not a power walk, just a slow, easy stroll. Around the house, down the driveway, or a loop around the garden. 10 to 15 minutes is all you need. Enough to encourage circulation, keep blood sugar in check, and help food move gently through the gut. There's something special about those quiet post-meal walks. You're not rushing, you're not multitasking, you're just allowing your body to settle into its rhythm. I've had patients tell me it's the most peaceful part of their day. Some even call it digestive meditation, and they're not wrong. And for those who can't or don't feel like walking that day, don't worry. There are other beautiful ways to care for your body and mind in that post-meal window. Read a chapter from a book you love. Open a journal and write about your day, or simply list a few things you're grateful for. Take 10 quiet minutes to breathe, eyes closed, hands on your lap. That's meditation. It doesn't need incense or chanting, just presence. One of my longtime patients, Mrs. Halverson, 84, made it her habit to write letters to her grandchildren after dinner. Not emails, letters. She said it helped her feel connected, calm, purposeful. And her digestion? Better than it had been in years. You see, when you pair rest with intention, you create space for healing. Real healing. What I'm trying to say is this. We don't need grand gestures to stay well. We need rituals, gentle ones, repeated with care and consistency. If you treat your body with respect after meals, it will reward you, not just with comfort, but with energy, clarity, and time. And that's what this is really about, isn't it? Time. More time with the people we love, more time to move without pain, more mornings to wake up feeling clear, not sluggish. In the final part of our conversation, I'll share how to nourish not just the body, but also the spirit through the way we eat, the way we rest, and the quiet choices we make every single day. Let's continue. Before we close, I'd like to offer a few special considerations. Gentle reminders I've come to cherish over the years, especially for those who are living alone, managing chronic conditions, or simply entering the later chapters of life. If you live by yourself, I urge you to create a small, reliable connection after each meal. It doesn't need to be dramatic. A phone call to your son, a message to a neighbor, even a short check-in with a friend. I've seen time and again how precious those little rituals can be, not just for the heart, but for safety. There was a gentleman, Mr. Lowell, age 6, who lived alone after his wife passed. He was independent, clear-minded, and proud of it. But one afternoon after lunch, he began to feel dizzy. He reached for the phone and called his niece, as he often did around that time. When she picked up and noticed his slurred speech, she immediately called for help. He'd had a minor stroke, small enough to recover from only because someone responded quickly. That daily call may have saved his life. And that's something I want you to remember. Living alone doesn't mean being unreachable. Build small bridges of connection around your meals. Not because something will go wrong, but because if it ever does, you won't face it alone. Now, let's talk about medication specifically for those of you managing blood pressure or diabetes. Timing matters a lot. After eating, blood flow shifts to your digestive system, and that can alter the way your medication is absorbed. I've had patients experience dizzy spells, confusion, even falls, just from taking their pills too soon after a meal. It's heartbreaking because these are preventable events. A good rule of thumb is this: unless your doctor has told you otherwise, take your medications either 30 minutes before eating or at least 2 hours after, not immediately after finishing your plate. And if you're taking multiple medications, space them out. Give your body the chance to absorb and process each one properly. I remember a woman, Claire, 79, diabetic. She had a habit of taking all her medications right after breakfast, then heading out for her walk. One morning, she fainted on the sidewalk. Her blood sugar had dropped too low, too fast. We reviewed her schedule, adjusted the timing of her pills, and it never happened again. Small changes, big difference. And finally, let's speak about the meal itself. Not just what you eat, but how you eat it. I tell my patients, your stomach doesn't have teeth. The more work you do with your mouth, the less your gut has to struggle. Chew slowly, at least 20 times per bite. It may sound like a chore at first, but it becomes a rhythm, a pause, a breath, a moment to connect with what you're nourishing yourself with. As for portions, I recommend something simple. Eat with your hands, but not literally. Use the size of your palm as a guide. A serving of rice or bread should fit within it. Protein? The same. Vegetables can go a bit more generously, of course, but the point is to eat enough, not too much. You should feel 80% full, never stuffed. One of my longtime patients, Mr. Green, used to say, "I used to eat like I was preparing for battle." That was before the heartburn, the poor sleep, the weight gain. When we worked together to adjust his habits, smaller portions, slower bites, he started sleeping better, his glucose stabilized. He even said he began to enjoy his meals more. "I taste the food now," he told me. "It used to just disappear." These aren't just rules. They're acts of kindness toward yourself. A way of telling your body, I respect your pace, I trust your wisdom. So now, as we come to the end of our time together, I want you to hold on to something very simple, very true. It's never too late to take better care of yourself, not with massive changes, not with extreme routines, but with small, steady habits, the kind you build around meals, the kind that carry you gently from one day to the next, with clarity, with comfort, and, if we're lucky, with a bit more time. In my 90 years, I've come to believe that health isn't just about what's in your blood work or your charts. It's in the way you rise from the table, the conversations you have after dinner, the breath you take before the next bite. That's where life is. That's where it's always been. And so, before we part today, I want to leave you with this. The moments after a meal may seem quiet, even ordinary, but within them lies a powerful opportunity, an opportunity to support your heart, your brain, your digestion, your balance, and your future. You don't need expensive treatments or complex regimens. What you need, what we all need, is awareness, intention, a willingness to care for ourselves not only when we're sick, but when we're well, especially then. In my many decades as a physician, I've watched too many lives change in an instant because no one ever told them that 30 minutes after a meal could be either a time of healing or a time of risk. Today, I've told you, and now it's yours to carry forward. Sit tall, sip warm water, share a kind word, move gently, breathe. These are not just habits, they are gifts to your body. And they are how we age with grace, not by resisting time, but by walking with it, gently and wisely. Thank you for spending this time with me. May you be well, may you be steady, and may you find joy in even the simplest parts of the day, like the quiet moments after a meal. Until next time.